Yep. All right, we've got a couple of minutes for our off script here. So, this is one of those things where it's like, well, you always think you have an off script, and then life interferes. I was going to ask you about the quality parameters of daylight savings time, actually, but no, I'm not going to do that.
Thanks.
I'm not going to do that because I was like, well, it was almost as good as my groundhog one from a couple of months ago. But no. Instead, what interfered, of course, was the Trump administration's tariff policy.
Right. Okay.
Kind of came in front of that. So the question really is, from the narrow perspective of what the administration wants to do, and which is to kind of help U.S. steelworkers,
Sure. Yeah.
steel workers,
Right.
to be very clear.
Yeah.
It's probable, from a certain perspective, that this is a good thing.
Sure. It sounds good. I mean, it's
it's protectionism, and that the root of that was protection. She's trying to protect American workers.
Yeah.
But the question is more broadly, is this a good thing? And for those workers, is this a good thing? I mean, in the long run, is it going to not save jobs and just mean that prices are going to rise for consumers, including those workers? I mean, are they going to not be better off in the long run from this, even though they're supporting it? I mean, what do you think? I mean, you don't know. We don't know. We can't know. Is it unknowable, or is it we just don't know yet?
It depends who you talk to. I think it's unknowable. To me, from my limited knowledge and experience, granted, I think tariffs are effective when they are levied on finished products.
Right.
Okay? Because that shifts the decision of, do I want to pay more for a product that has tariff on it or not, to the customer. Do I want to pay more for a flat screen TV? Do I want to pay more for, I bought a motorcycle when there was the big 50% tariff on Japanese motorcycles in order, it was protection for Harley, right? Mm-hmm. But I did, I paid an extra 50% because it was still cheaper than buying a Harley. But that shifted that decision making to me. When you put tariffs on raw materials, there is no decision making on the consumer. You're affecting, in the case of aluminum and steel, you're affecting raw materials for automobile, for aerospace, for construction. So a lot of steel goes in construction, right? And so that cost, the vendor is not going to absorb that extra cost of that steel. They're going to pass it on. So how much of an effect is that going to have? I don't know.
Well, it's not, I mean, and more broadly, I mean, these aren't really a lot of jobs we're talking about here, to be honest.
For steel, right.
For steel. I mean, there's really not, I mean, the benefits are kind of, don't look at my paper, Dirk.
Yeah, no, I can't cheat. I see the answer. No, I mean, this gets back to a question we talk about a lot. It's kind of that utilitarianism, right? Mills. So is it, do you look at these for what is the good for the most people? So yes, if you're a steel worker, this looks really good to you.
And it may,
right?
it may
be. Oh, I'm sure it will be. For a certain amount of steel workers, this is going to be really good. That's positive for them. If the end result is that for the U.S. populace as a whole, which is millions of people, not tens of thousands of people, that this is a bad thing, then sorry, steel workers. I mean, this is the decision you're faced with anything, and not just tariffs. Anytime you pass a law, anytime you do any kind of legislation, there are winners and losers. So the question is who's the biggest one? Mm-hmm. Do you have more losers than winners? That's a bad decision. Do you have more winners than losers? Well, then it's a good decision. And sometimes I don't know that you can think about this and decide up front.
And tax reform is really the same way.
And tax reform is the same way.
It's the same kind of thing. And I mean, just looking.
Like right now, I mean, tax reform, this is looking good. My taxes are going to be less next year.
Sure,
I'm going, sweet.
Well, and
but I don't know what the overall effect's going to be.
The job report just came out. 313,000 new jobs added in February. I mean, that was very much an overperformance of what the estimates were. So I mean, a lot of those jobs were in manufacturing and construction. Sure. So I mean,
so you say that's a good thing.
It looks good.
It
looks good. But again, we're in the early innings of this. So long term, what's it going to mean? And my question really about this is, are these workers that are getting the direct benefits now? Are they going to, if prices do go up, they got to buy new cars, they got to buy air conditioners, they got to buy things that are going to be, raising the prices because of the price of steel and aluminum.
My gut feeling is, for the steel workers, even long term, this is a positive.
Yeah.
I think for even in the long
They've
term,
been hurting for a long time.
They've been hurting for a long time. So
yeah.
this is a
And
positive.
reinvestment in those steel mills here in the U.S.
Right.
is going to be helpful too.
The bigger question is just look at one sector. Is just look at construction. If the cost of construction that uses a lot of steel, if that goes up enough, is that going to impact the construction market to the point where you start laying off construction workers? Or construction workers, don't get pay raises, or whatever metric you want to throw on that, because that could be, even though the steel workers, I suspect, are going to do well on this. Construction industry may be hit hard enough that it would more than societally more than offset the gains that come from what the steelworkers gain. But we don't. Who knows?
These are very complex systems, so I get it.
But I think you've got to think. I think it's important to think about both sides, because I don't think people do. They just go, "Oh, steelworkers, that's awesome, great for me," which we all think that way. We all think about ourselves. It's the way it is.
Well, the other problem is it's hard sometimes to even know cause and effect. Sometimes the effects are far down the line, and you don't even realize this happened back in the early part of 2018, and now in the later part of 2018 or 2019, we're seeing maybe a recession.
Yeah.
We're like, well, is tax policy, is a tariff, are all these things influencing that? And maybe we don't even tie it back to that at the time.
This would be a good question. I think we have somebody from the MEP watching the state. It's actually a good question for them. NIST has the MEP program, which helps manufacturers. It'd be interesting to know what manufacturers, other than steel manufacturers, what they think about this.
Yeah, good point.
Is it going to be a positive or negative for them? So.
All right.
Okay.